got to praise your franchisees and all of your employees, all the people who work in your business, because they all bring something to the table. And as a franchisor, you don't know everything, you can't know everything, and you have to sort of let it go a little bit, in that they are going to run it their own way and put their own stamp on it, even though it is a franchise. And, you know, you've got to let them, and sometimes incredible things come from it.
This is the Born to be Brilliant podcast, helping you harness the habits and unlock the tools to bring you more meaning, vibrance, and the personal power to help you shine like the diamond you are. I am so happy to have a fellow franchisor in the podcast studio today. Jolly Jess is from Showtime Circus, a business that she franchised, and she's here to share loads of wisdom. We're going to talk all about the different ways we can grow and scale businesses. Jess, a massive welcome to the podcast.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. I'm excited to have this conversation because, as we both know, there are so many different ways that you can grow businesses and scale businesses beyond just you doing everything yourself. And so I really want to delve into that today, and the good, the bad, the ugly, because I think as somebody who, like myself, you know, we've both come from performer backgrounds, gone into business in various guises, and found ourselves, you know, we're franchisors, we've got, you know, all the fingers in different pies, we've both got multiple businesses. It's so nice to talk to people like that. And so, yeah, just to get us warmed up, you know, just what do you think, or what have you learned along the way that you'd say is like a really significant lesson or turning point?
That's a good bit of juicy one. I think I would say that not all of your franchisees will be your friends. There's a very different relationship between a franchisor and a franchisee. You're not their boss. You're not their friend. You're not their colleague. It's a very, very different business relationship. And I do think that is something that I would really love to put out there in the world. I adore my franchisees. We get on really well. I can't wait for our franchise conference every single year, where we get together and we have a drink and we have a great time, and it's fantastic. And I'd happily go on a night out with every single one of them. But remembering that they're not your friends, they're your franchisees, I think that is really big, helpful tip.
I love that. And I think that is so true. So just to give context to anyone who is listening to this podcast, that's like, hang on a second, what's the difference between a franchisee, franchisor? Because some people don't know and sometimes get them around the wrong way.
Yeah.
And so Jess has, like one of my businesses, gone into that franchise model where, you know, starting out doing the business yourself, have grown and scaled that into a way that you can then create multiple units. So for someone who's like, well, how does that work then? It's like rolling out, when people think of franchise, they think of McDonald's or Subway or like Specsavers, some of the well-known ones. But it's where you've got a business model that works. You know, you can replicate this, and other people could run one or run a branch or whatever it might be. You can basically package it up and show them how to run that and run one for themselves. And so Jess has done this with Showtime Circus. And as the franchisor, so the franchisor is like Ronald McDonald. It's not though, is it? It was Ray Kroc and whoever it was. But it's like the main person who created the thing. That's the franchisor. The franchisees are those individual unit owners. Flip out, another great example. So when we talk about that, the franchisees, like you say, it is a different relationship, because in a conventional business, you have your managing director and your boss, or your line managers and your team managers, whatever, and employees, and you've usually got someone you answer to. But in the franchise world, a franchisee is a business owner in their own right. They have their own business. They have their own little one of that business. And so, yes, they look to you, the franchisor, for guidance, for support, inspiration, maybe, whatever, but they are their own boss. You're not their boss. So I think that's really interesting that you touched on that.
Yeah, and I think learning as well that those franchisees are fantastic in their own right? That's why you've chosen to work with them. But letting go, they're not going to be exact carbon copies of you. They're not. They will do things their own way, and letting them do that and rewarding them for doing that. Like, we do talk about McDonald's a lot in the franchise world, but an employee of McDonald's invented the Big Mac, right? Like it wasn't Ronald McDonald's. So it's like, you've got to praise your franchisees and all of your employees, like all the people who work in your business, because they all bring something to the table. And as a franchisor, you don't know everything. You can't know everything. And you have to sort of let it go a little bit, in that they are going to run it their own way and put their own stamp on it, even though it is a franchise. And, you've got to let them. And sometimes incredible things come from it. And, don't get me wrong. Sometimes I'll listen to people run a class and I'll be like, that's literally my words coming out of their mouth. Like when you're saying different things. And that's what they're training, right? The training teaches them to do that. But they do go away and then run it their own way, put their own little stamp on it. And that's what makes it theirs. And especially with Showtime Circus, it's somewhere for children to find themselves, be themselves unapologetically. And I think to allow that franchisee the freedom to put their own stamp on it means they're being completely themselves, which attracts those children to their business, right? So it's very important for me to realize that as well.
I think it's quite new, and I think it's becoming bigger and more popular, but the wave of franchises now that are in the classes, groups and online as well is massive. So once upon a time, yes, it was these big ones, these big outlets, activities that are outlets, like I said, Clip and Climb or Flip Out, or your restaurants and your food chains. But I think when it comes to these classes, like you said there, they might say your words, they might deliver in your style because they've learned from you, or their training, their manual, their whatever it is that they're learning it all from. That's right. But yeah, I think there's a lot more human element that comes into that sort of franchise. And I think that it's taken the world a little while to adapt to this style of franchise where the person is the business. It's an owner operator model, because you go to like the big franchise expos and they are filled with investors that are coming in and looking for like, right, what entity can I purchase with my millions to invest? Because it's a great thing to invest. It's a great asset to buy, to go, right, I need some more income producing assets and revenue, but buy another business. Great, do that. And so you get lots of these investors that are looking for an opportunity to buy something that they can fully kit out, fully staff, and that it's going to make them a profit. Brilliant, great business move. But these are franchises that are much more personable, that are human, like connection, owner operator led, and it takes a really different kind of person to come and be a franchisee in that sort of franchise. What do you think makes a great franchisee in that way, as opposed to someone that would then just go and do their own? Like, well, if I'm going to come and run this class as a franchise, why, if I've got the savvy to do that, why would I not just go and set my own one up? Why don't I buy the franchise?
I think that's a big thing in the franchise interviews when we have like chats and stuff. I think you can see the people that really respect the work you've put in and the effort it takes to get it off the ground. And they're the people that will make fantastic franchisees. The people that are sort of like, well, I could have just done all this myself, I tend to veer away from them. But that being said, I think the reason why franchises like this are quite popular at the moment is because there's so much red tape. There's so many things, especially with children and safeguarding and insurance and everything. You want to make sure, well, if you are conscientious, you want to make sure you're doing it right. And to buy a franchise is sort of is an easy way of making sure you are doing it right. Figuring out all of that red tape yourself is difficult and will take a long time. And if somebody's not the right type of person to run a franchise, then they will be determined to do that and will do that. And it might take them longer, and they'll make all of the very same mistakes that I made at the beginning, which is why I'm now the franchisor. And I tell my franchisees, these are the mistakes I made, don't make them. And, if somebody wants to set up their own, they're likely to make those mistakes and take a little bit longer. But a franchisee, an ideal franchisee, is somebody who knows the hard work that goes into that background, that building of the business, that building of your reputation. And they do respect like how much work that is, even though, as I said, they bring their own thing to the table too. So, I have franchisees that point things out in my manual that are like, oh, this could be do with a shake up or a look over. And I'm so grateful for it because, as I said, we can't do everything, can we? We're just one person. And so, yeah, I think I can't remember the question anymore, but hopefully that answered it.
No, it definitely does. It definitely does. I think that, yeah, if somebody, like you said, if somebody really has the wherewithal to go and do something on their own, they will anyway.
Yeah.
Like they'll do it anyway. And I think the people that the great ones that come forward, definitely, like you say, they do recognize that it isn't that easy. And going it solo, you have to wear so many hats to be successful in business. And it is to some extent a bit of a shortcut. I don't think it means you do less work. It's just different work. You get to focus on what you want to do and you do best, knowing you've got that support and infrastructure. But also you get to be part of something bigger than yourself, don't you? And it's like you said at the beginning about your conference and having those things where you get together, you celebrate the successes, and you're ultimately, if you're one brand, you've got so many advocates out there that are making that brand bigger. And if you're out there solo doing your classes, that in another town, someone else is doing one, but word's getting around and everyone's effectively marketing everyone else.
Yeah, exactly.
In brand awareness, aren't they? So I think that the right people, they get that and they see that, don't they? And they know that that's like, well, yeah, I want to be part of that. Ultimately, marketing is the lifeblood of any business.
Yeah.
And lots of people that are owner operators that get into a business will go, yeah, I could do that. Yeah, I could run those classes. Yeah, sure you could. But can you market it really well?
Yeah,
do you know how to market it?
The nitty gritty of like the KPIs and the profit margins and the tracking everything. And if you're building that from scratch, that'll take you a couple of years before you can even think about looking at the retention rate and all of the things that are there on a spreadsheet for you to plug everything in. Literally, it's right there for you. And if you were to start your own, it takes you a few years before you even have the mental capacity to figure that bit out. Whereas with a franchise, it's right there. You open that folder on your drive and you're like, oh, I'll do my KPIs today, pop them in. Oh, that's my profit margin. Glorious. It's right there. So you know it. So I think that's helpful as well.
Definitely. These business like frameworks and even the spreadsheets and you just said, lots of people that would want to run a class in anything that, is to do with for children or activities or anything like that, probably wouldn't necessarily even know what a KPI is. So, they're often so passionate about the thing they do. They're either an instructor in some kind of sport or they've got a skill that they bring to want to be that instructor, that lead, that they don't have the business savvy, and they know that about themselves. They know their strengths, they know their limitations.
And having me have done that bit means you don't need to, right? So like having a franchisor who's done all of that learning, who's done all of that work to give it to you means that you don't have to, and you can focus on the fun bit of actually teaching the classes and growing your business. Like that's the fun bit,
Yeah. And as a franchisor, it's important that you identify that in people from the get-go. And that's hard. Like, I know how hard that is. People can interview well, right? And they can come across really well and you think they're going to be amazing. And with all love intended, sometimes they're not. They just don't live up to what you first thought they were going to be. And I think that's really difficult because everyone's intentions are great. As the franchisor, you're like, this thing is good. It works for the right person. They've presented themselves as the right person for the best due diligence possible. It seems a good match. And then sometimes it turns out that it actually isn't. And that's really hard. I think there's a no blame situation there where sometimes it's right to have a difficult conversation and go, is this going to work out? Does that resonate?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think in my experience, if someone's too good, seems too good to be true. But you again, as franchisors, you learn and you make these mistakes. And as business owners, as franchisors, when I was starting the business, I made very different mistakes to what I'm making as a franchisor. But I've got nobody franchising in my franchise to learn that bit from. So there's bound to be learnings along the way, and that's okay as well. Like, you're not a finished product, so you're constantly working on yourself. And as long as I can pass on the lessons and the life lessons that I've learned to my franchisees, so they don't make those mistakes in running the business. I'm still here figuring everything out as a franchisor. You know, I'm hands up, happy to say that it's been 2 years, and that's not a long time really when you think about, you know, running a whole business. So yeah, we all learn something along the way, and I think one of the biggest learnings for me is, you know, trying to find that right person, because I see the best in everyone, and I think I just think everyone's honest and true and you know, wonderful, and perhaps they aren't, and that's tricky when you realize. And
I hear you. I hear you. You have high hopes for people, don't you?
Yeah.
And you think so. One thing I definitely have learned is sometimes, even though every little part of my being is like, I really believe in this person, I really believe in them, and I know they could do it. If like you start to, with practice and with time, you start to have there's an edge of something that tells you, just because I believe in them, like if they're not prepared to do the work. And this is the thing, I think, sadly, I think sometimes people think that for all the amazing benefits of a franchise, the shortcuts, the lessons you don't need to go and learn, that, you know, you follow the process, it's being tested, just do that. For all the best will in the world, I think you do still get some people who come into that thinking that it's just done. You know, there's no work needed. As long as they just show up, that's it. And I think that is naive. I don't think there's any business that's employee mindset, right? If you're an employee, you're going to be told what to do and you want to take home your paycheck no matter what. If you're a business owner or even a franchisee, it's up to you to make sure that you bring in your customers and clients, nurture them and look after them, keep them coming back for more. You know, that is on your shoulders as a franchisee. And I'm sure you, just like we have and every other franchisor does in that whole process, is you make sure that that's very, very clear and that people understand that. But do you ever find that franchisees look to you for, you know, it's like, well, I'm stuck. Like, what do I do? Like they're almost helpless.
Yeah, I think they look... I as I've said before, I do adore my franchisees. They are wonderful humans. Sometimes I think they are like, I don't want to bother Jolly Jess. I don't want to bother her. I don't wanna bother. And then eventually it'll come to like 2 weeks before a holiday camp and they'll be like, but it's empty. My holiday camp's empty. And I'm like, right.
Why didn't you tell me sooner?
And I'm like, have you tried this? Have you tried this? Have you tried this? No. Okay, if we'd have had this conversation a month ago, we could have got this full for you. In 2 weeks, it's going to be tough. Let's do it. You know, it's not an option to cancel. You've booked the whole, you know, whatever. You've got the 10 kids that we don't want to let down. It's not an option. Let's go for it. Let's market. However, if you'd have come to me, I could have. I mean, if I had a pound for every time I said it's in the drive, I would be on a beach right now. If they'd have come to me and said, I've struggled finding the marketing path for whatever, is in the drive, here it is, this is what you need to do, and this is, you know, and this again is where it's really hard with the employer mindset, because I'm not their employer, but I can give them a timeline of exactly what to do if they want it, because I know that it'll work, but I don't need to, because they're their own boss. So it's like getting that relationship right as well between, I can see that you're struggling, I can see that your camps are empty because I can see how they're filling up. Would you like me to put together a little tailored plan for you? No, I've got it. Okay. Fine. And then it's the like, oh, don't bother. I'm panicking, they're empty.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's hard as well that way to figure, you know, how much do you step in and be like, I like to keep a little eye on how busy things are, but I never want to just jump in with my massive feet and be like, you're struggling, do this, because I'm not their employer, right? You know?
Exactly. And you want to give them that autonomy and also empower them, because that's the whole point. You want them to be empowered. Otherwise, you would have just started employing people to go and do these things.
To be empowered and to learn, they must learn that if they don't have a marketing email campaign, and if they don't use their social media wisely, their camp will be empty. And the hard way to learn that is to run a camp that's empty, you know, like, and then you're like, right, I'm not going to do that again. I will actually do what Jess says. So, you know, they've got to learn and we've got to empower them too.
Yeah, definitely. No, it must be difficult to get your head around your own marketing style as well when you're one of these business owners, because like you said, they put their own stamp on it. They are running a service that's personal. So they're there in the room with these people.
Yeah.
They're delivering this service. So, and as lots of similar franchises, that models that I'm thinking of, when you are the person, your marketing does need your edge. You can't literally just go use mine, because it will land differently with their clients and their customers. So they do need to put their own essence into the marketing, their voice, their styles, so that they attract their people to come to their things. And I think that is a whole, like, that takes practice. There's it takes time to refine that and get that right. For any business owner.
And for me as well, I didn't realize how particular I was until I started running a franchise. And then I saw some of the marketing and I was like, oh, it's really making my teeth itch. But you just, as you say, you have to just leave them to it. There's certain guidelines that I'm really strict on.
Yeah.
But
you
the
have
rest
to be
of
for
it,
the brand.
Exactly. But the rest of it, I've had to go, just let it go. Just let it go. It looks great. It's got the right colours. It's got the fun. It's fantastic. Looks eye-catcher. Just,
yeah.
Yeah,
no, and you don't want them afraid to put stuff out, because they're like, it's not going to be good enough.
No.
Done.
Don't want them to think that I'd love for them to just fly in their own way. So yeah, it's not keeping them in a cage, isn't it? It's just letting them free, which is very important.
How do you feel for you, your business has, what do you love about how your business has changed through franchising it compared to before?
I adore that there's pockets all over the UK where kids can be themselves. I just adore that. Because there's gymnastics everywhere, there's dance everywhere, and now there's these little pockets of crazy crackers circus kids that hang upside down. And I love that, because kids don't fit into those things, and that's who we attract, is the kids that have tried gymnastics and it's too strict, have tried football and it's too cold outdoors. Like they're those kids that then come to us. They're not dance kids, they're not gymnastics kids, they're not disciplined. They're these incredible children with massive personalities that we get to teach circus to. And I think to know that that is now all over the UK, as opposed to just where I could teach it, I'm so grateful for that. I'm so happy. I'm like, that's the best thing about my business.
I love that. And that ripple effect, like you say then, so that just ripples and multiplies outwards in such a big and powerful way, more than you could possibly do yourself, but also for longer than you would be able to do. You're a mum, you've got your hands full, and you can't be everywhere and do all the things. And then your time is limited, so you'd be capped at how much you could do.
Exactly, yeah.
So with a franchise model, you've got the opportunity for exponential growth there as you grow and scale that. And if people are sort of thinking about how they can scale their business, what are the pros to franchise? Well, apart from some of those, what are the pros to being a franchisor?
Pros to being a franchisor. I feel like I am very much the architect of my life. Like, I get to pick what I do, and when I do, I think going to train new franchisees, I get to stay in a nice hotel, and I get to stay over for an extra day, and I get to take my family, and everything sort of, it gets to be an adventure, because I don't have to rush back anywhere. So everything's always really like on my terms. I went on holiday last week just in the middle of October, just because I could. You know what I mean? It's just like, it's really lovely. Like a pro that could be seen as a con. I don't want you to think that I'm just always flouncing off on holiday. But, like, you as a franchisor, your income relies on somebody else's income. You get 10% or whatever you've decided of their income. So you do have to put that work in, just to make sure, you are lifting the spirits of everyone in your network and making them want to do more. And, because that does have an effect on your revenue. So that's maybe a con, I don't know. But another pro of being a franchisor is I've got loads of ideas, and I love to see them rolled out. Like, we have a new thing in circus where once a term they do a themed circus class, and it's like under the sea, or it's in the jungle, or I had this crazy idea, and then to see people actually start rolling it out, it's like, I'm so proud. And then also to know that, some of my franchisees, I don't quite know where they would be right now if they weren't franchisees of Showtime Circus. Specifically, I think 2 of my old BTEC students, I think they would just be working in Tesco. And now they run a circus store. They run their own business. They're successful in their own right. And it's really fantastic. So that as well is a huge sense of pride to know that, I have changed people's lives by empowering them to run their own business.
I love that. I love that. Yeah, like everything in every model, there are pros and cons. There are highs and lows and challenges. And there's no doubt that it's not difficult sometimes being a franchisor, which is why not everybody is a franchisor.
Yeah.
It's not always the right model or the best model. Sometimes it is, grow by employing people or grow by being an agency, or like there are other ways, aren't there? Did you ever consider other ways of scaling? Did you run any options?
I think my journey is quite unique in that I had to step away from teaching for health reasons. So I couldn't physically teach anymore, which made me go on, apply for business courses. And then I got onto quite a big business course called NatWest Entrepreneur Accelerator. And then it was lockdown. So then I used my lockdown time to learn. And one of the chats on that accelerator scheme was about franchising, and it sparked my interest. And because it was lockdown, I had time, to just put everything into that. So I do think my journey is very different. I don't think I would have franchised. I think I would still very happily be running. 2 different things happened in my life, which are in our book, which made me go on to franchise. One was health issues and one was moving away from a bad relationship. And so I physically had to move. So then to keep that one going, it had to become a franchise because I physically couldn't be there. And then I couldn't teach. So then it was, I taught somebody else and realized, oh, this works. So I think mine's a very different, again, organic journey to franchising. I didn't sit there and go, this will make me loads of money. Wahaha, let me franchise this. Didn't even cross my mind. It was like, I want to keep this business going that I have put my heart and soul into, that I absolutely adore. And actually, it seems like the only way I can do this is by franchising it. And I knew I didn't have the capacity to just teach teachers and manage loads of centres around the UK. I knew I didn't have that capacity. So, getting other people to run their own branches. And again, I love the business side of it. I geek out on the numbers. So to know that I can help somebody learn that side of it too, I think that all slotted together to make it a franchise for me.
Yeah, I love that. I think we're, like you say, when people are franchisees and when you have that kind of model and you're helping and you're empowering them, they have the autonomy. I think it's a bit like performance related pay in that, they don't get paid unless they do the work and put themselves in to it properly. Therefore, and to some extent, neither do you, but they've got to show up and do the thing to get paid. There's no coasting. And like you said, if you were trying to manage, imagine you'd employed these people, gone off and trained them in all corners of the UK, and then, you're their boss, but remotely, and you've got no idea of the quality of the output or anything, or if they're doing it right. And if they're getting paid anyway, you could have all kinds of people there.
Yeah.
And then you're gonna, brands could implode because you've got no quality control, and really, really difficult. And everything is then on you because you've got to market every single one in every single, town. But by empowering them with that, not only is the reward higher for them because there's no limit, really. Well, there's some limit, but it's pretty hard. Capacity is the upper limit, isn't it? But they can go and go and go. They've got that freedom. Or maybe they actually just want something that's relatively part-time, but they get to sort of choose. They got that autonomy, but they do have to do that work. So they are, to some extent, paid on performance. They're rewarded for what they put in. And I think that's empowering. And in any business, I think more and more businesses are going that way in some form or another with incentives and things.
Yeah.
But I do think that's lovely. I think that helps attract the right people.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, if you're paid the same regardless, then you'll do the same regardless. And I do think that. And I have some fantastic PAYE employees, don't get me wrong, who are paid the same either way, who are this business could not run without. But franchisee wise, it's definitely the more they put in, the more they get out. And I think the more reward they get as well. And, I think it's very important that they have their own team and that they feel like they have something that's theirs.
Yeah.
I think that's very important.
I do. And again, it comes back to that personal thing, doesn't it? Like your personality becomes part of your business.
Yeah.
They've got the Showtime Circus brand, but they've got their own personality stamp on top of that. And that's precious. People get excited about that. They bring their own. I bet loads of them have got their own additional skills and
sort of brilliant. It's brilliant. And when you see and we had the huge dance convention at the weekend, and I had a few different branches come together to compete in the competition or just to perform, and to see what each center brings. Oh, it's just amazing. Some of them all have exactly the same jackets and exactly the same hair, and they did the special little twiddly thing that they do before they go on stage. And some of them were just happy as Larry to be there. Didn't have their uniform, didn't just followed around, just happy as anything. And you know what? I loved it because each of them were their own pocket of fabulousness.
Yes.
And I love just seeing what can be done with it. And from the kids that don't have anything at all, and this is a once in a lifetime opportunity, to the kids that do loads and loads of stuff, and circus is one of many things, and seeing what a difference circus makes in those kids' lives, regardless of whether they've got everything or nothing. It still makes a massive difference. It was just brilliant to see. So that was brilliant this weekend to see that.
I love that. So 2 questions then. Let's start with franchisees. What makes a great franchisee? If somebody is thinking, they're listening to this and they're like, I like the idea. So they've heard what we're saying and they're going, I like the idea of becoming part of something that is bigger than just me. I'm ready for something new and I am a doer, but I don't want to start from scratch. I have those thoughts sometimes. I go, God, that'd be brilliant, but no way am I going to build something like that from scratch. I know what's involved. But for somebody who's in that place right now, what would you say to them as a self-check to see if they fit the criteria as a good franchisee, generally of businesses like we're talking about, where you are the business?
Will you put the work in? Will you be accountable for your success, or are you likely to deflect that anything going wrong is the franchisor's fault? Are you able to say, I didn't put the work in there, that's why the campus is empty, or whatever? Are you wanting to build your own business but not by yourself? So you're on your own, but you're not by yourself. It's your own business, but you've got somebody there in your pocket. Are you not afraid to ask for help if you need it? If you're too afraid to ask for help, when it's there, that's the point of a franchise, is to help you. If you're too afraid to ask for help, maybe it's not right for you. If you are okay to go, do you know what? I need a hand with this, actually.
Yeah.
Exactly. This is the right path for you. Because everything you need is here. Are you willing to put in the work? Are you willing to be accountable? Definitely. I think, 2 big questions.
Good ones. I like that. And so then let's flip it to the franchisor listeners that are like, ooh, maybe it's time for my business to scale. Maybe I need to look at franchising this or licensing or something like that. What are your big tips for anyone considering going that way?
If you are considering franchising or licensing, do it properly. Your agreements have to be watertight and sound. So be prepared for a large outlay financially to get those right, because without those being correct, you just don't have a backbone. So if you are considering it, it is a huge financial outlay. The work that goes in as a franchisor is unnoticed and unrecognized.
So don't be needy for credit, because you won't get it.
You're not going to get it. You're not going to get it. So as long as you're willing to put that hard work in without anybody going, oh, wow, Steph, well done. I do help people who want to franchise their businesses. And I think the first thing that I ever hear back when I'm helping somebody is, wow, this is a lot of work. Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's not easy. It's not easy to do. And just because something has worked for you for years in multiple locations that you've managed doesn't mean it'll work as a franchise. You really have to go do your whole customer journey, not just the not just they turn up at your door and you do a class and they leave. It's the whole journey from finding you on social media to everything, and every eventuality that could ever happen. You need to have a policy for everything and a procedure for what happens if I break my nail in class. Literally everything needs to be documented, and that's a lot of work. So if you are considering it, just everything you do, just document what you've done that day, and then be like, right, can I turn that into something to put in an ops manual? Great, do it. And there are plenty of people around who can help you do that. And that's something that I've just started going into doing, which I'm really enjoying. But that's what I'm telling everyone is document everything and see what you can turn it into to put in your ops manual.
It's Fantastic Franchisor, is it?
Fabulous Franchisor.
Fabulous. Sorry. Fabulous. Oh, well, even better. Fabulous Franchisor, Jess's new venture and avenue down the franchisor path. I think that's brilliant. I think when you're like, though, yourself, like me, we're entrepreneurial, you're always looking at, and what's next? And what's next? It's like, and I think some people, when they don't understand that, they think you're ditching the thing that you were doing, and you're like ditching that and doing this. Like, no. I'm one of these people who's like, this is good. This is rolling now. I can add in another thing, and then that's like what we're like.
With the Fabulous Franchisor, Showtime very much is my heart and soul and energy and everything. But with Franchisor, I was just getting a lot of people calling me and saying, can I pick your brain? And my brain was picked a lot and not much was left. And I thought, you know what? The next person who asks, I'm going to have to charge them. And because this is a lot of knowledge, actually, that I'm giving away here. So I decided to do that and recruited a good friend of mine. Was my first person that I'm working with, and he is just blown away by how much knowledge he's getting. So that's where it's like, this can turn into a thing. He's like, babe, I would pay you thousands for this, so turn it into a thing. And I'm like, right, let's do it, let's go for it. This knowledge is not, you can't Google it. ChatGPT doesn't tell you how to be a franchisor. Do you know what I mean? Like, this is stuff you've got to be in to learn. And I think I would have loved for the insight when I first started. When I very, very first started, I got franchise friends along the way who helped a lot. But when I very first started, before I even hit go, I would have loved to have had a day with someone like myself going, this is what you need, this is what you do, these are the things, ask me all the questions, okay, go. So that's what I'm offering, like a day with me to sit and ask all of the questions, and then a year's support as they get set up.
That's amazing.
So I'm thinking, hopefully that'll help quite a lot of people and answer loads. Maybe people after the day will be like, this isn't right for me. I don't actually want a franchise or license. And better that than going 5 years down the line and being like, oh, it isn't working.
Absolutely. It's still worth every penny of that investment to have that time with you to make that decision, because I'm sure I'm not wrong when I say that the cost involved in going ahead with the franchise will probably far outweigh the cost in spending that time, getting that information and being able to ask those questions that are nuanced. Because like you said, you can go online and sure, we can always get information, right? We can get information online. But what I'm guessing and gathering from what you're saying you add is the understanding the human element behind that business, what it takes to be a human franchisor, not just the nuts and bolts of checklist of, well, you need to document this and da. Like, yes, you can get that off the internet or anywhere really, but there's way more to it than that. And I would be, if I was in that category now, I'd be writing down all my questions and thinking, well, I want to understand, what if this, and how would I manage this situation or that situation? And it's the personal, emotional things that you can't get from an information source. You need a person that can understand that's walked that path. So I think it's brilliant that you're offering that to people now. I having walked the path myself as a franchisor, I know only too well what that's like, the highs, the lows, all of it. And it's a great model for a business, and it's a great model for growth and expansion. But I think it is understanding it. And people like myself and you, Jess, we have created franchises in niches that aren't typical bricks and mortar styles, or even R2 are different models and how they work. And the old school there's a lot of old school franchise experts out there who are fantastic at what they do, but maybe haven't evolved so much with the times and the different styles now of businesses.
Yeah.
But likewise, there are also some very, I say old school, but actually very foundational and traditional important aspects that we can't forget, dilute and gloss over with the modern franchise that is maybe more flexible and has sort of different styles to it. There are some really important things that differentiate an actual proper franchise from, for instance, having a training school with a membership. Because it's not that dissimilar. You could have a training school, teach people how to be a coach of some sort, and then a membership where you look after them afterwards. Great model, brilliant, but know the difference between that model and a franchise, because they are different.
Yeah, they are different. Yeah.
You know, very different. So yeah, great. I love this. There's so much depth to it as well. So much depth to it. So if people are curious about becoming a franchisee or a franchisor and want to reach out to you, we'll obviously put links in the show notes, but where's the best place for them to hit you up with a message to Jolly Jess?
Probably Instagram is where I check, or Facebook, Jolly Jess. The socials is where I sort of check, and then we can, go a bit deeper in what you're after. And I have very fancy links where you sign up to things, and you know what it's like. Track everyone, how you found me, etc. But yeah, no, it's socials to start off with to get the ball rolling and chat about anything Showtime or anything franchising. I am happy to help. Yeah, I'm here for you, so please reach out.
Perfect. We'll all put those links in the notes as well. But Jess, thank you for coming on and sharing your wisdom of the journey and everything you've put in. It really is impressive. So thank you.
Thank you for having me.
I hope you enjoyed this episode, and remember, go out there and shine your light bright, because you were born to be brilliant.